Hello and welcome to the pre-recorded BDISBO Goal Setting and Small Business Reserve Training for vendors and stakeholders. The agenda for this meeting is to review BDISBO's responsibilities and provide an overview of the programs administered by the office. We will discuss the small business vendor registration process, review the Small Business Reserve Program and Disparity Study background. We'll discuss the goal-setting process and the participation forms related to the program. We'll summarize on award compliance requirements and then give an overview summary of the key points reviewed in the presentation. The BDISBO office is designed to create a more fair and equitable landscape where small, diverse, and veteran businesses can compete for state contracting opportunities as prime or subcontractors. BDISBO is responsible to assist and educate vendors on how to do business with the Commonwealth. BDISBO's functions include an outreach division, certification, goal-setting program, compliance relative to the goal-set procurements, policy and legislation creation. We administer an agency liaison program working with all governor's jurisdiction agencies to ensure that they are compliant with the BDISBO Small Business Reserve and goal-setting programs. We restarted our mentor-protege program pairings in 2024, and we are also responsible for reporting metrics relative to the programs administered by BDISBO via an annual report to the governor's office. One of the foundation blocks of the BDISBO initiatives are inclusion, to ensure that small businesses have equal opportunity to participate as prime contractors, and incentivizing prime contractors to subcontract with our small, diverse, and veteran businesses. This is done with an intent to engage with representatives of the Commonwealth community. Some of the key accomplishments that we can cite include over 1,700 small businesses currently engaged with the Commonwealth of PA, resulting in over $1 billion in payments to small businesses, with over 900 small business reserve contracts awarded to small business vendors. Now, the Commonwealth completed 2 disparity studies to date. The first concluded in 2018 and resulted in some program changes. And our second was just concluded in 2024, for which we're still determining what program initiatives will be implemented as a result of those findings. Now, the disparity study identifies disparities in the participation of small, diverse businesses and veteran business enterprises in state government contracting. Disparity studies are completed to ensure that the Commonwealth programs comply with guidance from the U.S. Supreme Court. The disparity study determines whether a government entity, either in the past or currently, engages in exclusionary practices in the solicitation and award of contracts to minority, women-owned, and disadvantaged business enterprises. The disparity study assesses to what extent small, diverse businesses face discrimination through the examination of the current participation of small, diverse businesses, the marketplace conditions, contract policies and program measures, and most importantly, legal compliance. Some of the resulting changes that were implemented as a direct result of the disparity study were outlined in a Bureau of Procurement Policy Directive 2023-1. The intent of that policy directive was to implement the goal-setting program to address the disparities in the participation of small, diverse businesses and veteran business enterprises in Commonwealth contracting. The goal-setting program requires the review of solicitation documents to identify tailored, contract-specific SDB and VBE participation goals. The thresholds for non-construction procurements valued over $250,000 and construction projects valued over $600,000. Goals are set on these solicitations on a solicitation-specific basis. All potential bidders or offerers must comply with the goals set for the procurement or receive a waiver to be deemed responsive and eligible for contract award. BDISBO administers 3 programs: a self-certification small business program, and our small, diverse, and veteran business enterprise programs. The small business program is a prerequisite to participating as either a diverse or veteran business enterprise. The eligibility requirements for small business designation with the Commonwealth require the vendor to be U.S.-based, for-profit, independently owned, non-dominant in its field of operations, with no more than 100 full-time equivalent employees and earning less than $47 million in a 3-year revenue average. Self-certified small business vendors who would like to be recognized as diverse or veteran must pursue a third-party certification from one of 7 national third-party certifiers acknowledged by the Commonwealth to receive certification for their business designation, requiring the business to be 51% owned and operated by a person in one of the following designations. For our small diverse business program, that would include minority businesses, women-owned businesses, service-disabled veteran-owned, LGBTQ-owned, and disabled-owned business enterprises. The Veteran Business Program acknowledges veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. Let's talk about how to get registered to do business with the Commonwealth. Vendors, in order to actively bid and be eligible for award of a Commonwealth procurement contract, must register for an SAP vendor number in order to engage in our procurement practices. Vendors register with the Commonwealth via the PA Supplier portal, which can be found at www.pasupplierportal.state.pa.us. You select the Register Now button and begin the registration process. For vendor support materials and resources, they may be accessed from our Pennsylvania Supplier Service Center. Now, the data that you'll have to have on hand in order to complete your supplier registration, you must have your employer identification, EIN, or social security number for your business, a legal name for the company that must match your IRS information, your business type, physical address with phone number and zip code, +4, as well as contact information and county of business location. Once a vendor has completed their SAP registration to receive their vendor number, the next registration would be to register as a small diverse, or veteran business as eligible. There is a small business reserve resource document that provides step-by-step instructions for the eligibility to participate as either a small diverse, or veteran business with the Commonwealth. It provides step-by-step instructions with links driving you to our registration portal, which is a PRISM platform. It also includes a review of the program eligibility requirements, which we've stated requires registration as a small, diverse, or veteran business. The self-certification application is in the PRISM platform, where you would enter and create and supply the requisite information to be acknowledged as either a small, diverse, or veteran business. The self-certification for a small business is immediate upon receipt of the electronic signature in the application platform. Our small, diverse, and veteran business enterprise review process can take approximately 10 business days to complete. We do have a process to expedite urgent request upon notification to the BDISBO office. Now, let's talk about our Small Business Reserve Program. The Supreme Court requires that we start with a race and gender neutral program, which would be the Small Business Reserve procurement process. Our Small Business Reserve process is a program that enables small businesses to compete among each other for bidding opportunities reserved exclusively for DGS registered small businesses. The goal is to invigorate our small business program by promoting small businesses to become prime contractors. And the administration, both Governor Shapiro and Lieutenant Governor Davis, have increased focus on the Small Business Reserve Program through transparency and reporting initiatives to ensure that the information is accessible and transparent to Commonwealth constituents. Now, our Small Business Reserve Program has direction which must be followed by our procurement representatives. The process requires our procurement representatives to review the small business, to review the DGS supplier search database and search that platform to identify a minimum of 3 small businesses which should exist in the appropriate geographical area with the requisite capabilities as outlined in the scope of work to provide the goods or services solicited in the bid process. The small business must be able to satisfactorily provide the scope of work to include supplies, services, distribution of goods across the Commonwealth with the specific expertise required by the Commonwealth's scope of work statement. The issuing agency may take into considerations other factors they deem relevant in determining whether a program or procurement is suitable for competition and award to small businesses. I mentioned that our issuing officers are accessing the DGS supplier search to seek out the availability of DGS registered small businesses to participate in the reserve program. This database is also accessed by prime vendors who are seeking partners to engage to help meet stated participation goals relative to our goal setting program, which we'll talk about shortly. The DGS supplier search is a portal which houses vendors that are registered in any of the 3 distinct BDISBO programs as small, small diverse, or veteran business enterprises. This platform also includes vendors who participate on a CoStars contract or an ITQ, invitation to qualify. Upon entry into the DGS supplier database, the first thing that you are asked to do is to select the reset button to clear any previous search parameters. This is an older platform which we found has the ability to hold on to previous search filters based on an IP address. So for that reason, users are asked to reset the platform prior to initiating any new searches. The platform allows vendors to access an advanced search toolbar, which allows you to make various filter selections to identify specific vendor types. If you have the vendor's name or number, you can search a vendor by that method. You may also search for vendors with less specific information by designating the classification of the vendor you might be seeking to include small, small diverse, or veteran businesses. It also allows you to search for various ITQ holders, as well as refining your searches to specific Pennsylvania counties where vendors have designated they provide their services. The first typical filter that vendors would consider is the supplier's classification to identify what type of supplier you're seeking. And in order to identify a specific vendor by industry segment, you would be required to identify the appropriate commodity code for the services or products that you're seeking a vendor to provide. The Commonwealth uses an internationally based indexing system called the United Nations Products and Services Codes. That platform is separate and distinct from the North American indexing system used by the federal government. We do provide a brief code description box that can help you identify an appropriate commodity code by entering terms related to the service you're seeking, or you may access via a link under the brief code description box that drives you to the UNSPSC website, where you can retrieve their full database and search that database using terms common to the industry or service you're seeking to identify the most appropriate commodity code. The filter also allows you to refine to specific Pennsylvania counties, which may be important if you're seeking vendors to provide work that would require close geographic proximity to a job site location. So once you've made your appropriate filter selections in the platform and select the search button, what populates your screen would be a quick view of the first 3 or 4 vendors that met your general search criteria. From this screenshot, you'll notice that there are columns on the right side designating validity dates for designation as small, small diverse, or veteran business enterprise suppliers with the Commonwealth. From the search results page, any blue text will serve as a hyperlink driving you to that supplier's profile for more detailed information. You may download your results from your search by selecting the Export to Excel button, which downloads a multi-tab document with a wealth of information, including supplier contacts, commodity codes the vendors are registered under, as well as information regarding ITQ or CoStars participation. It's important that you recognize that when you conduct or retrieve a list from the DGS supplier database, that you should only use it for the purposes at hand at that immediate point. This database is a live database with expirations dropping out of the database, new registrants coming into the database, and renewals being processed daily. So these are time-specific searches that we ask you to use only for the relative need at the immediate moment and not to be reserved and used for future needs. Now, our agenda said we talk about our goal-setting program, one of the direct results of the disparity study that was completed in 2019. The disparity study is designed to engage and incentivize the participation of small, diverse, and veteran business enterprises. As a reminder, the small, diverse businesses include minority-owned, women-owned, service-disabled veteran-owned, LGBTQ, and disabled-owned businesses. The goal-setting process, as mandated by the Supreme Court, requires narrowly tailoring goals to the market availability of small, diverse businesses for the specific needs of each solicitation. The Commonwealth goal-setting process is outlined here. It begins with a mathematical calculation using small, diverse business availability and project work scopes. It entails an assessment of market pressures, past performance, and location. And we've initiated a new procurement review group, which includes the issuing officer, subject matter experts, and a BDISBO representative who work for each unique solicitation to identify the appropriate goals to be assigned for subcontracting with small, diverse businesses. Now, once the goal setting program is completed internally, solicitations are then released with SDB and VBE participation goal requirements. Those goal requirements are included in our bid process, and part of the bidding process requires submission of specific goal set procurement forms to make your assertions and commitments to small, diverse, and veteran businesses as part of the goal setting program. On solicitations where goals have been applied, there are forms that are included in your bid packet that proposers must retrieve, complete, and return by the bid close due date and time to be evaluated for contract award. The submittal packets, both the SDB and VBE submittal packets, are organized in the same fashion in 5 parts. It begins with an instruction set, which is approximately 4.5 pages long, which provides an overview for the intent of the program, along with the specifics of the information being requested. The first document proposers would retrieve, complete, and return as part of a goal set procurement response would be SDB or VBE Form 2, the participation submittal document. This document poses 3 boxed options from which proposers are to select one, designating whether they plan to meet the stated participation goals in full, or request either a partial or complete waiver to the goal. Vendors who want to meet the goal in full, or at least partially, would proceed in the packet to access Form 3, the SDB and VBE utilization schedules. Here, you're asked to identify the specific vendors that you have engaged or plan to engage to meet a stated participation goal. The prime proposer is required to list the specific subcontractors they plan to engage to meet the stated participation goals on this document. You're asked to name the vendor provide their SAP vendor number and their SDB or VBE verification number that was provided on a certificate issued from BDISBO when the vendor was accepted into the program. Please clarify their classification within the category, provide a description of the scope of work or service to be conducted, along with a fixed firm percentage commitment to each vendor, and computing the estimated dollar value of your percentage commitment based on your own cost proposal. For every vendor that's listed on the utilization schedule, proposers are required to complete and return a letter of intent as well. That letter of intent can be found in section 3.1. And this is where you summarize the specific relationships from your utilization schedule. So you would list the solicitation name and number to which you're responding, provide basic contact information for the prime and subcontractor, and restate the negotiated terms of the relationship as stated on the utilization schedule, to include the description of the scope of work or service, a firm percentage commitment, the estimated dollar value of the percentage commitment, along with the contract term. This document must be signed by authorized representatives from each entity. Now, for vendors who are choosing to meet the stated participation goal in full, once they've completed documents 2, 3, and 3.1, that would comprise their entire submittal packet. Alternatively, vendors who choose to pursue either a partial or complete waiver to the goal would proceed in the packet to review section 4, which is our good faith effort waiver guidance. And we would be addressing those vendors who completed the designation requesting either partial or full waiver from any SDB or VBE participation on the solicitation. So the guidance as found in section 4 reminds vendors that the sheer ability or desire of a prime contractor to perform work of a contract within its own organization does not relieve the offerer of the responsibility to make good faith efforts to meet a stated participation goal. Now, prime proposers must complete all components of the good faith effort waiver documentation, as those are the only details and evidence that will be reviewed in order to make an approval or denial determination. The prime must complete all components of the good faith effort waiver documentation, and those documents are used to determine whether a request will be approved or denied. And as a reminder, denied waiver requests are excluded from the evaluation process for award. Also included in the guidance for our good faith effort waiver program is a list of pertinent fatal errors that we hope by bringing to your attention in advance will keep you from falling victim to them. Once you've reviewed section 4 for the instructions for the waiver request process, you would then complete the waiver request documents to be submitted by the bid close due date. There are 5 waiver request forms, and proposers are required to complete all 5 components. The first waiver request form asks the prime proposer to identify the items of work they solicited for subcontracting and answer 3 yes or no questions. The second waiver request form asks the prime proposer to identify the specific SDB and VBE vendors and record your solicitation efforts. That requires you to list the specific vendor, clarify their designation in the category, provide a brief description of the work or service to be conducted, and document the format of your outreach to include follow-up calls and any pertinent details from follow-up calls, as well as noting whether or not quotes are received, used, or rejected. The third waiver request form is an outreach compliance statement posing 5 questions to the prime offerer regarding their outreach strategy. Waiver request form 4 request information regarding any rejected SDB or VBE quotes, asking you to describe the scope of work being quoted, the designation of the vendor quoting, the amount of that quote, as well as if you were to have comparative non-SDB or VBE quotes which provide insight to your rationale for rejection, you would include them here. The fifth and final waiver rejection form is a subcontractor unavailability certificate. The prime proposer is asked to complete this document for every vendor to whom they initiate an outreach attempt to document their inability to negotiate a relationship to meet the stated participation goals. Now, waiver requests must be submitted with the bid packet due at the bid due date and time. The waiver determinations are made after the bid close, and it is a responsiveness issue. Incomplete or missing waiver response documents will result in the exclusion of your submittal for evaluation for award. Now, I'd just like to summarize and make known the after contract process that the Commonwealth engages in. One component of the after contract award process is our compliance process applicable to the goal set commitments made as part of the award process, part of the evaluation of proposals and contract award. And those goal set procurements, after the award is finalized, there is a kickoff meeting with the prime and subcontractors and a BDISBO compliance representative. They explain the process for timely utilization reporting and explain that no changes may be made to those subcontractor agreements without written requests for changes based on payment or performance issues. Subcontractors are required to communicate payment and performance issues with BDISBO, and BDISBO will then consult with the issuing office to determine the appropriate remediation efforts. Results of noncompliance range from sanctions to full exclusions from participation in the Commonwealth contracting process. So it is important for commitments that are asserted in the evaluation for award to be monitored for compliance, and there are sanctions at the disposal of our issuing officers for those non-compliant situations, which, as I said, range from withholding of payments, termination of contracts, revocation of a prime contractor's small, diverse, or veteran business designation status, and potentially the ability to submit proposals on future solicitations. And ultimate sanction would be to be restricted on our Commonwealth Contractors Responsibility Program, which could have sanctions up to and including suspension or debarment from future contracting opportunities with the Commonwealth. I do point out that in July of 2023, the Commonwealth implemented new prompt payment terms for non-construction goal set procurements, which requires prime offerers to pay their SDB and VBE subcontractors on goal set procurements within 10 days after receipt of payment from the Commonwealth upon receipt of an appropriate invoice or any other required documentation from the subcontractor. So to summarize the points I've reviewed today, we reviewed the program eligibility requirements for the 3 BDISBO administered programs as small diverse, or veteran business enterprises. To summarize the goal-setting program, it is applicable to solicitations for materials and services valued over $250,000 and construction projects valued over $600,000. It's undertaken after first an SBR determination has been made by the issuing office, and each procurement is reviewed for its unique needs and requirements, and the goal-setting program becomes an issue of responsiveness and responsibility of the prime offerer. For more information on any of the BDISBO programs or support or vendor resource initiatives, feel free to reach out to the BDISBO office via our resource email account or directly through phone contact. Thank you for your time and attention to this presentation, and we look forward to supporting your needs as it relates to engaging with Commonwealth procurement initiatives as small, diverse, or veteran business enterprises. Thank you again, and have a good day.